The chessboard of power. Tokugawa, Ieyasu's path to peace and stability. Picture a chessboard where every move could mean the difference between life and death. Now imagine playing this game for 40 years, knowing that one wrong decision could not only cost your life, but plunge an entire nation into chaos. This was the reality for one of history's most brilliant strategists, Tokugawa Ieyasu, the man who transformed Japan from a battlefield into the world's most stable and peaceful society for over 2.5 centuries. The year is 1543. As Portuguese traders first set foot on Japanese soil, bringing with them guns that would forever change warfare, a baby boy is born into a world of unprecedented violence. This child would later become known as Tokugawa Ieyasu, but at birth, he was simply Matsudaira Takechiyo, born into a minor warrior clan in a country torn apart by civil war. At just 6 years old, young Takechiyo would learn his first brutal lesson in survival. Caught in a power struggle between warring daimyo, he was taken hostage by the Oda clan. As the small boy was led away from his home, his mother, following custom, cut her hair and became a Buddhist nun, a symbolic death to cope with the loss of her only son. This early trauma would shape Ieyasu's understanding of power, loyalty, and the true cost of war. Imagine being that child, forced to grow up in the castle of your family's enemies. For 3 years, Takechiyo lived under constant threat of execution. One false move by his father, and his life would be forfeit. Yet instead of breaking him, this experience taught him patience, observation, and most importantly, how to survive in a world where today's enemy could become tomorrow's ally. But fate had even harsher lessons in store. At age 9, he was transferred to the Imagawa clan as a hostage. During the journey, his escort party received word of an ambush. The guards, loyal to their young charge, crafted an ingenious plan. They found a young boy of similar age and appearance, dressed him in Takechiyo's clothes, and sent him along a different route. The decoy was captured and crucified. This event would haunt Ieyasu throughout his life, teaching him the value of loyal retainers and the importance of careful planning. These early years as a hostage shaped Ieyasu's unique approach to power. Unlike his contemporaries Oda Nobunaga, known for his brutal efficiency, or Toyotomi Hideyoshi, famed for his meteoric rise from peasant to ruler, Ieyasu learned to wait. He observed how power worked from the perspective of both captive and captor. He learned when to bow and when to stand firm, when to fight and when to negotiate. By his teenage years, Ieyasu had already survived multiple assassination attempts, witnessed countless betrayals, and learned to trust no one completely. Yet unlike many who might have become cynical or cruel from such experiences, he developed a pragmatic philosophy. Power was not about personal glory, but about creating lasting stability. As Ieyasu grew into a young warrior, he displayed an unusual talent for turning enemies into allies. After the death of the powerful Imagawa Yoshimoto, instead of seizing the opportunity for revenge against his former captors, he carefully negotiated alliances with their retainers, gradually building his own power base. This pattern would repeat throughout his life. Where others saw enemies to be crushed, Ieyasu saw potential allies to be won over. Consider his relationship with the fearsome Oda Nobunaga. Rather than competing with this powerful warlord, Ieyasu aligned himself with Nobunaga's ambitions. While other daimyo were destroyed by Nobunaga's relentless expansion, Ieyasu's domain grew through careful diplomacy and selective military action. When Nobunaga was betrayed and killed in 1582, Ieyasu was one of the few major daimyo to emerge stronger rather than weaker from the ensuing chaos. This brings us to one of the most remarkable aspects of Ieyasu's character, his ability to learn from others' mistakes. He watched as Nobunaga's empire crumbled due to over-reliance on military might. He observed how Hideyoshi's meteoric rise led to over-ambitious foreign adventures that strained Japan's resources. Each failure of his rivals became a lesson in what not to do when his own time came. The defining moment that tested all these accumulated lessons came at the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600. This wasn't just another battle. It was the culmination of everything Ieyasu had learned about power, alliance building, and human nature over his 60 years of life. But before we delve into this pivotal conflict that would change Japan forever, we need to understand the complex web of loyalties and betrayals that led to this decisive moment. The dawn of October 21st, 1600, broke cold and foggy over the plains of Sekigahara. On this autumn morning, 160,000 samurai prepared for what would become the largest and most decisive battle in Japanese history. But for Tokugawa Ieyasu, this wasn't just a military confrontation. It was the culmination of decades of careful planning, relationship building, and strategic patience. What made Sekigahara different from countless other battles was that victory would be determined not by military might alone, but by loyalty, betrayal, and the complex web of relationships Ieyasu had cultivated over his lifetime. As his armies took position in the morning mist, Ieyasu knew that the real battle had already been won in the minds and hearts of key commanders months before. Consider the story of Kobayakawa Hideaki, a young daimyo commanding 15,000 troops on the opposing side. In the months leading up to the battle, Ieyasu had secretly reached out to Kobayakawa, understanding the young lord's ambitions and frustrations. While Ieyasu's rival Ishida Mitsunari treated Kobayakawa with condescension, Ieyasu offered him respect and the promise of greater power. This single relationship would prove decisive. As the battle began, Kobayakawa's forces stood motionless atop Mount Matsuo, watching as Ieyasu's army clashed with their supposed allies. For hours they remained static, causing anxiety in both armies. Then, in a moment that changed Japanese history, Kobayakawa's army turned and charged, not against Ieyasu's forces, but against their own allies. This betrayal triggered a cascade of defections that would seal the fate of the battle. But Sekigahara was more than just a military victory. It was a masterclass in Ieyasu's philosophy of power. Unlike his predecessors who might have executed the defeated commanders, Ieyasu showed mercy to many who opposed him, even offering positions in his new government to former enemies. This wasn't mere kindness. It was calculated pragmatism. Every spared enemy became living proof that switching loyalty to Ieyasu was a wise choice. With victory at Sekigahara, Ieyasu faced his greatest challenge yet: how to transform a nation of warriors into a peaceful society. The solution he devised was nothing short of revolutionary. Instead of trying to suppress the warrior class, he would redirect their energy into a complex system of administrative duties and ceremonial obligations. Enter the Sankin-Kotai system, perhaps Ieyasu's most brilliant innovation. This alternate attendance policy required all daimyo to maintain two residences, one in their home domain and another in Edo, modern-day Tokyo. They were required to spend alternate years in Edo, leaving their families there as permanent hostages. When traveling between their domains in Edo, they were required to maintain an expensive procession befitting their status. This system was a stroke of genius for several reasons. First, it kept potential rivals close where they could be monitored. Second, the expensive travel requirements and necessity of maintaining two residences drained the daimyo's resources, making rebellion financially impossible. Third, and most importantly, it created a sophisticated hostage system that ensured loyalty without the need for overt violence. But Ieyasu's vision went beyond mere control. He understood that lasting peace required more than just preventing war. It required giving people a stake in maintaining the peace. He implemented a rigid class system that, while restrictive, provided clear roles and responsibilities for everyone in society. Samurai became administrators. Merchants were given freedom to prosper, while being kept socially inferior. And farmers were protected from warfare that had previously devastated their fields. Consider the story of the Mitsui family, who rose from humble merchants to become one of Japan's most powerful business dynasties under this system. While technically at the bottom of the social hierarchy, they were able to amass enormous wealth because Ieyasu's system provided the stability necessary for commerce to flourish. This was no accident. It was part of Ieyasu's grand design to redirect the energy of society from warfare to productive pursuits. Ieyasu also revolutionized Japan's foreign relations. Having witnessed the destabilizing influence of European powers and Christianity, he implemented a policy of controlled isolation. However, unlike the total isolation that would come later, Ieyasu's original policy was more nuanced. He maintained limited trade through specific ports while preventing foreign powers from gaining political influence within Japan. The results of these policies were remarkable. Under the system Ieyasu designed, Japan would enjoy over 250 years of domestic peace, an achievement unmatched by any other major nation during this period. But perhaps even more remarkable was how this peace transformed Japanese society in ways that would lay the groundwork for Japan's rapid modernization centuries later. The system Ieyasu built would transform Japan in ways even he couldn't have imagined. Consider this remarkable fact. By the mid-18th century, Edo had grown to become the world's largest city, with a population of over 1 million people. This was at a time when London had barely 600,000 inhabitants. More remarkably, Edo functioned with a level of peace and order that European visitors found almost impossible to believe. But how did this system create such extraordinary stability? The answer lies in what modern management theorists might call aligned incentives. Every class in society, from the highest daimyo to the humblest merchant, had clear reasons to maintain the system. The peace dividend was enormous. Without the constant threat of war, Japan experienced a cultural renaissance that would be hard to parallel in world history. The literacy rate soared. By the end of the Edo period, Japan had one of the highest literacy rates in the world, with some estimates suggesting that 40% of men and 15% of women could read and write. The system also created unexpected innovations in environmental sustainability. With stable borders and no new territories to conquer, Japan had to learn to live within its natural resources. This led to sophisticated forestry management systems, urban recycling programs, and agricultural innovations that would be considered progressive even by today's standards. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of Ieyasu's legacy was how it shaped Japanese corporate culture. The modern Japanese corporation, with its emphasis on lifetime employment, loyalty, and consensus building, bears striking similarities to the structural relationships Ieyasu established between daimyo and their retainers. Even today, many Japanese companies maintain a system of rotating assignments that bears more than a passing resemblance to the old Sankin Kotai system. However, Ieyasu's system wasn't without its costs. The rigid class structure, while providing stability, also stifled social mobility. When Commodore Perry's black ships arrived in 1853, forcing Japan to open to the world, the system's limitations became painfully apparent. Yet even in its ending, Ieyasu's system proved its worth. When Japan finally modernized during the Meiji Restoration, it was able to do so with remarkable speed and efficiency. The high literacy rate, sophisticated bureaucratic systems, and culture of organized cooperation, all legacies of the Tokugawa system, gave Japan significant advantages in adopting modern technology and institutions. What lessons can modern leaders draw from Ieyasu's example? First, true stability comes not from force, but from creating systems where peace benefits everyone. Second, the most effective solutions often involve redirecting rather than suppressing existing energies. Ieyasu didn't try to destroy the warrior class, but rather redirected their energies into administrative tasks. Perhaps most importantly, Ieyasu teaches us that leadership isn't about quick victories, but about building sustainable systems. In an age of quarterly earnings reports and short-term thinking, his ability to plan for centuries rather than years or decades seems almost supernatural. Yet this is exactly what many of today's challenges, from climate change to sustainable development, require. The next time you hear about Japanese efficiency, their famous attention to detail, or their ability to balance tradition with innovation, remember Tokugawa Ieyasu. The foundations he laid over 400 years ago continue to influence not just Japan, but offer valuable lessons for leaders and nations around the world, grappling with the challenges of creating stable, sustainable societies. Thank you for watching this exploration of one of history's most remarkable leaders. If you've enjoyed learning about Tokugawa Ieyasu and the foundations of modern Japan, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We have many more fascinating stories from Japanese history coming up that you won't want to miss. Also, let us know in the comments what aspects of Japanese history you'd like to learn more about in future videos.